Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Welcome, everyone, to the August 10th, 2026 regular meeting of the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the reception desk and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For action items, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comments will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comments will be closed, and upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. With that introduction, I'd like to ask Commissioner Bowden to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please rise.
Today we focus on the objectives we have as planning commissioners to fulfill our mission, to promote, coordinate, collaborate, and facilitate with all people in creating and implementing the long-range planning and vision of our community, to improve economic development, quality of life, and provide value-added services. Help us to make decisions that fulfill that mission. Bless us as we meet together today. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Bowden. All right, next up, I'd like to ask the clerk to please go ahead and call roll.
Bowden.
Present.
Cardenas. Jemison.
Present.
Kugler.
Present.
Linkus. Lauk.
Present.
Sieben.
Present.
Sink.
Here.
Orton.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Joseph.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of the minutes for the following meetings. First, we have Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, June 8th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on City of Temple Terrace plan amendments, June 8th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on City of Plant City plan amendments, June 8th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, July 13th, 2026. Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on Hillsborough County plan amendments, July 13th, 2026. And Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on City of Tampa plan amendments, July 13th, 2026. Is there a motion? Commissioner Lau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we approve the aforementioned minutes.
All right, is there some, Commissioner Bowden?
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion of approval by Commissioner Lau, a second to that by Commissioner Bowden. Comments, questions from the commissioners before we take our vote? Not seeing any, then would all signify their approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, our first item is the presentation of the plaque of appreciation to former Commissioner Steve Kona, who has joined us today. Commissioner Kona, if you'd come to the mic, the podium to be recognized. You have a plaque to present you here. I'll read you what it says before I come up there and give it to you, and then give you a chance to say a couple words. Presented to Steve Kona III, Hillsborough County appointee from October 2023 to June 2026. In recognition and appreciation of your exemplary service on the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission and your vision, leadership, and commitment to improving the quality of life in our community. Just wanted to say thank you again and congratulations in your next endeavors, Commissioner Kona. If you want to say a couple words.
No, thank you guys very much. It was an honor to serve on this commission and an honor to serve with each and every one of you. I've learned so much for being part of this, and thank you, Melissa, and your team for always doing amazing work. And I also want to thank Chair Joseph for his commitment to serving on this planning commission, and I apologize for not having the bandwidth to continue, but I really enjoyed the time here and the work that you guys do, so thank you very much.
Alrighty. Next up, we have public input for items not scheduled on the agenda. I don't believe there was any. Nope. All right. And we have, after that, item number 4, our presentations for no action. First up, we have 4A, Waymo 101, and the presenter is John Tups.
Hello, Chair and members of the Commission, Commissioners. Hello, Melissa. Thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to share more about our company, Waymo, and about our specific plans for Tampa. Melissa, should I pull up the deck here? Thank you. Thank you so much. I always found with our company that pictures go a long way. Let me get started with a quick introduction. My name is John Tups, and I serve as the Southeast Policy Manager for a company called Waymo. Waymo is an American company, and we are growing in the United States, providing fully autonomous ride-hailing services to 11 cities across the United States. And it all starts with the problem that we all know we have on American highways. And that is 40,000 people lose their lives on U.S. roads every single year. And in Florida, that actually is 8 people a day lose their lives on Florida highways every single day. And at Waymo, we found a way and are working every day to change that status quo. This goes even beyond the idea of transportation being inaccessible to many, including people with different abilities, disabilities, seniors who can no longer drive. And our goal is to be the most trusted driver. Trust is the key word in that sentence, and to me, it really boils down to people have to trust us to be able to get them to their destination safely. Also, communities must trust us to put safety first no matter what, and elected leaders need to trust us to operate transparently. So I'll talk a little bit about how we do all of those things. First, a little bit of our history. We've been at this for quite a while. We started in 2009 as the Google Self-Driving Car Project, and after many years of development and investment, we are an example of American ingenuity and innovation. And let's kind of level set what autonomy we're talking about here. when we talk about fully autonomous driving, unlike driver assist, which is 1 through 3, we don't require a human being in the vehicle to take control of the car. At levels 1 through 3, a human must remain behind the wheel, ready to intervene, and those are driver assist technologies. Waymo operates at level 4, which is true autonomy, where an empty vehicle can come and pick you up, transport you door to door, and you can relax in the back seat. And the simplest way to understand that is that if you need a driver's license to operate it, it's not full autonomy. Waymo, we are full autonomy at level 4. And we have a lot of experience doing this. As I mentioned earlier, started in 2009. We currently do 500,000 trips a week and about 4 million miles fully autonomously, serving riders in these cities. Phoenix is our most mature market. We've been in Phoenix since 2020, serving riders, but we're also in major metropolitan areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, Orlando, Nashville, and soon to be Tampa. We're also laying the groundwork for fully autonomous ride-hailing services internationally in Tokyo and in London. So in any of the cities listed above, you can download the Waymo app and take a fully autonomous ride, and we can get you there safely. Let's talk for a minute about the technology itself. So this graphic gives you a bird's eye view of the Waymo driver and its main components. Our sensor suite includes LiDAR, cameras, radar, external audio receivers, ears, and a powerful AI compute that all work together to build a complete view of its surroundings, day or night, rain or shine, up to 300 meters away, about 3 football fields. Using all of these inputs, the Waymo driver can confidently navigate 1 in a million events that we regularly see because we drive so many miles fully autonomously across the country. I believe we have a video. There's 2, so we can go to the second one, which should be just on YouTube here. Kind of had a little bit of redundancy there. So what you'll see in this video is several examples of the Waymo driver navigating situations and keeping roads safer. If I can make that full screen, it would be great. Yeah, that's better, thank you. So let me start this over here. So what you see is the Waymo driver in action. The blue is where the vehicle is gone. The green is where the vehicle is going. As you can see, as it's moving around the world, it is creating a 3D real-time image of its surroundings, including pedestrians. And because our AI compute is so fast and process is so strong and took many years to build, we're able to confidently interact with everyday situations. And because we drive so often and so many miles, we see it all. This is a busy intersection in Austin, Texas, where on a busy Friday, Saturday night, a lot of people out. I'm sure some of them are inebriated, and the Waymo driver is confidently but carefully navigating through this intersection. I'll show you another here in a second. The Waymo driver's actually able to interpret and respond to hand gestures from law enforcement officers and from construction workers. Here's one where it pulls up to a scene that the first responders have blocked off for whatever reason and confidently navigates. And here's one where the vehicle sees a red light but is able to confidently navigate around because it is being told to do so. It perceives the cones, it perceives the vehicle, it perceives the pedestrians, it perceives the world around it, and is able to react in real time very quickly to make roads actually safer. And let's talk about that transparency that I mentioned earlier. We publish all of our safety data online, so therefore it's been verified by third parties, peer-reviewed, poked, prodded, scrutinized, and the data really speaks for itself. Throughout 220 million miles of rider-only operations, fully autonomous, we're involved in 94% fewer serious injury or worse crashes. And aside from the magnitudes of fewer collisions that we're involved in, our service is safer than a lot of other traditional ride-hailing services, especially for vulnerable populations. As a dad of 2 young daughters, it gives me peace of mind knowing that when it's time for them to go to the airport at 4 a.m., they don't have to get in someone else's car, and they can go safely in a Waymo by themselves. This is a great picture. We have been, in response to and in preparation for our rollout in Tampa, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes, we actually bring former first responders that we employ and former law enforcement officers, and they do hands-on training with first responders. In the Tampa area, we've trained over 500 first responders, and we have continued training. It's not that we train and then leave. We continue these relationships. We continue to have this open dialogue with first responders. And this hands-on training, we have heard great feedback from, where first responding agencies really appreciate the feedback, appreciate the partnership, appreciate the training, and it's something that we're really proud of. Now let's talk about Tampa. So in December of 2025, we began testing with a human safety specialist behind the wheel at all times. Very recently, we removed that human safety specialist, and now we're in a final stage of testing, which is called rider-only testing, and that's open for employees to validate our service and to make sure that it's really providing what our customers have come to expect, a very high level of service. We will begin offering rides sometime in the next several weeks to the general public, and we'll begin our commercial service in the Tampa area. Our initial service will be in the core or central and north central Tampa, stretching from West Shore and Town and Country on the west, and then East Tampa and Ybor on the east, and then down to Hyde Park and South Tampa going south. So we're going to start at the beginning in the central core downtown area, and then slowly and deliberately and intentionally work our way out from there. A quick note that if you fly into Phoenix, Arizona, San Jose, San Francisco, or San Antonio, please look us up. We can take a fully autonomous Waymo straight. This is from Phoenix Sky Harbor, straight from the airport to experience everything that the city has to offer. We're working with every city where we operate to eventually serve the airport. We obviously realize that we have to be where people need rides, and so that process is ongoing. We mentioned Dallas and Nashville here, where we're actually testing and hope to expand that airport footprint in the coming weeks. This one's really interesting. I thought the Planning Commission might find it interesting as well. One of the things that we've heard from cities where we operate is the desire for us to share data with cities. So, as you can imagine, we can detect potholes very well as our vehicles drive across a city. So in several cities where we operate, we're providing this pothole data in real time directly to the cities in their 311 systems so they can make better decisions when it comes to planning and road maintenance. And last but not least, I'll end here before questions about our accessibility network. A lot of times, I have, in the past, I've taken for granted the ability for myself to get into my truck by myself and be in a car by myself. And that's just not the reality for a lot of individuals. So our technology and other AV technologies represents a way for increased independence for a lot of communities. A lot of times a Waymo ride represents the first time someone's been in a vehicle by themselves without human intervention in a very long time, and that's something we're really proud of. And we work with a lot of groups to bring that, to connect these communities with our technology, and it's something that we strive to do every single day. So please, I implore you, I ask you to, if you're interested at all, download the Waymo app, fill out the form. When we're ready and when we're ready to launch this commercial service, we'll begin to offer a commercial service in and around Tampa. By filling out this form and downloading the app, you'll actually be added to a list where, when we're ready, we'll be able to serve riders safely in the Tampa area community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what a great presentation. Are there any questions, thoughts from the commissioners? Commissioner Kugler.
Thank you. I like the feature of spotting potholes and reporting those. That sounds like a great add-on service. And probably Waymo doesn't freak out when a crazy driver cuts in front, but can that data also be sent on? Because I wish I could get in touch with some of the drivers I've had to deal with.
That is a great question, and it's something that just our philosophy of when we enter into a community, into a city like Tampa, we always want to listen. So we heard potholes is something that a lot of the cities where we operate is something that they're interested in. And we're all about listening to the community on other areas where data might be helpful, whether it's heat maps of pedestrians or cyclists or anything that the community sees as a need. Well, then we'll bring it back to the team and see if it's something that we can help with.
Thank you.
Commissioner Orton, is that your list down there? Yeah.
I love it because my son graduated in Tempe, and those roads are crazy. And finally, we saw Waymo driving around, and we're like, follow them. They'll know the right way to go because the roads, some are one way. You can't go just the train and everything else. And now it goes from Phoenix to Avondale, which I love. So I'm excited of you guys bringing it here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Really appreciate that. And the feedback and partnership that we've received in Phoenix has made a lot of this possible today. And I'm just really confident that we're going to see the same in Hillsborough County. People are going to be very excited about this, and we're excited to bring it to them.
Commissioner Bowden.
Yeah. What was the methodology determining where you were going to launch, where it was going to be like the test sites? Because the core, there's public transportation and maybe more rural, there's less. So, that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner, and a lot of it is done simply where we can serve the most amount of people without large wait times as we scale up the size of the fleet. But what you'll see is we'll start in a smaller, more compact city center, and then slowly but surely, deliberately and intentionally work our way out. We also listen to communities, so if a community is very interested in the service, I can bring that back to the team, and that we can work on getting service in a particular area. If the city and the community realizes this is an area that can use it, we're up for listening and want to do our best to serve everybody. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Singh.
Thank you for the presentation. A quick question. Do you have any municipalities that are doing public-private agreements to serve service gaps for public transportation or for handicap services?
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a great question. Off the top of my head, no, but it's something that we are actively exploring and something we're really interested in doing. I'll caveat that by just talking about the Southeast, where I currently am in charge of policy-wise. I want to make sure before we enter into partnerships like that, that we have the capacity when it comes to vehicles, and that we can do it 100% we can do it to the best of our ability to get it done. It's not a technology issue. It's more of a, can I get this paratransit going in a particular city with the amount of vehicles I have? We're going to get there, and it's something that we're starting to have conversations about, and I'd love to have a conversation with Hillsborough County about what that need is and how we can connect this technology to serve people that really need access to reliable, safe transportation. because the need is certainly there in communities across the Southeast and across the country.
Thank you. One follow-up question I have on too is, does Waymo have a hurricane contingency plan, or how do they handle natural, events like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for that, Commissioner. We always operate out of an abundance of caution. Now, thankfully, hurricanes, not all the time, but you're able to predict normally pretty far out from a hurricane. However, we have plans in place where we actively defleet and remove our vehicles from the road during times like extreme weather to make sure that we're not getting in the way of emergency response or people trying to evacuate or anything along those lines. So the simplest thing for us to do is to pull all of our vehicles back home and then get out of the way of emergency first responders and other people trying to get out.
Mr. Bowden?
Yeah, one last question. Do you have a similar agreement as in Uber and Lyft as far as airports?
Yes, by and large, we prefer to be treated as any other ride-hailing service when it comes to commercial agreements with airports. So the answer to that question is yes, is that we typically approach airports similar than any other ride-hail service would and say, we're interested in serving the airport, and then the airport would then tell us what contractually needs to happen for us to be able to serve riders there.
All right. I did have a question, too. Before I get down into the weeds with you here, like I always do in my Chair Joseph form, I want to say this presentation's been great. This technology is something that I've spoken about for years and years and years now. I'm happy to see it get developed and start to get deployed in communities. Having said that, there is an issue I brought up at the TPO that was kind of touched on, and you don't speak about it much in the presentation, and that's the issue of morals, right, when it comes to these computing systems. Basically the trolley question, right? When choosing between life and death, how are these AI programs, how are these algorithms programmed to understand the importance of life? When the car swerves, is it going to swerve into a small child? Does it keep its track instead of swerving into a small child? How is your company making that distinction? And is there any transparency in regard to those sorts of ethics, especially for elected officials and board members like us who have to make the ultimate decision? You know what I mean? I think those conversations have to happen because this technology is pushing us towards new moral trajectories that we haven't really begun to face as a society yet. And, I kind of wonder, it's not a negative, but it's coming, and I'm wondering what your company's stance on that is.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll attempt to answer that question, and if I don't answer it to as full as I can today, I can follow up with you offline. But essentially, our vehicle is going to take the safest action possible in any given opportunity. If a lot of times that means the vehicle's just going to stop, because if it's stopped, it's safe, or it can get to pull over to the side of the road and stop. So when it comes to the moral idea behind the trolley question, I think that's a great question. Something that I'm not fully prepared to answer and delve into today. However, I will say that the vehicles, the Waymo driver is designed to take the safest possible outcome anytime it's on the road.
Okay, I'll let it go, and I'll probably try and talk to you more as I see you around, because I do have the air of elected officials, and I'll be talking to them about this too, because, again, I think this is a big issue. Again, I love the technology. I'm a smart cities guy. That's like my thing. I think these things are the way of the future, but we can't turn a blind eye to these kinds of questions. They're serious and important questions that are going to be put in our face real soon as these technologies start to get on our streets. But my other question is, now that you've had some time, when I saw you at the TPO, you hadn't quite gotten down to meeting with a lot of the fire agencies around yet. Now I know my brother's a firefighter in the city of Tampa, so I know you guys have been around and you've been doing the workshops with the firefighters and gotten a lot of good feedback from them. when I first saw this presentation, we spoke about the fact that when the car breaks down, what happens to it? Does it just sit in the road? Who takes care of it? Can emergency and first responders move it? Can a police officer take command of the vehicle and get it out of a situation? It was a little fuzzy then. You spoke about having a fleet, or I don't know if it was you or whoever presented, spoke about having a fleet of tow trucks. You know, Waymo has their own fleet of tow trucks, and they'd go get the car and bring it back to your lots. It was a little fuzzy on whether or not first responders would be able to take command of the vehicles or just disable them. I was wondering if there's any further clarity on that now that you've had a chance to meet with our first responder community.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for the question, Chair. So, yes, first responders have the ability to disengage our vehicles and drive them to get out of the way of an emergency. However, we also employ wrecking services. So if a vehicle is stranded for any reason, it can be a flat tire. We work to also not place that burden directly onto first responders. As a private company, it's our job to quickly respond and get our vehicle out of the way. But yes, to answer your question, first responders do have the ability, and it's part of that training that I highlighted, to be able to move our vehicles out of the way.
Okay, very good. And one point that I didn't hear you mention, now I'll throw you because it's yours. These vehicles are all electric, right? So it's using electric, and you have your own facilities to charge at. You're not taking up spots in the city for charging these vehicles. They kind of go to a central location, charge, and then they come back out, right, and do their work.
Yes, sir, that's correct. All our vehicles in Tampa are all of our vehicles electric, but in Tampa it'll be the one pictured in the center on my screen here. It's the all-electric Jaguar I-Pace vehicle is our fleet in Tampa, and we are in the process of setting up our own charging locations and parking facilities. So we take on that and charge our vehicles, and we do our best to be good neighbors and to not be a burden to the communities where we operate, but instead to be a value add to the communities where we operate, and certainly charging our own vehicles as part of that.
Okay. And I had one last question. Have there been, and this might be a private thing that you might not be able to answer because you're a private company, but when you started off your presentation, one of the first things you said was, if you need a driver's license, that it's not fully autonomous. So which is true, and it made me think of the fact that a driver's license is kind of an accountability we have for people who drive. When you don't have a driver's license, there's a little bit less accountability in some ways. So I'm wondering if the vehicle does something. This question was brought up at the TPO too, and it was kind of sidelined a little bit, but who gets the ticket? Who gets the charge? I mean, if the vehicle takes a life, does the company on the hook, or is there some sort of clause that's written that says, Waymo takes no responsibility? Again, if someone has a driver's license, we can take the driver's license away, we can suspend it, we can kind of mitigate behaviors and control things through that. If there's no driver's license and these cars are just driving around, as a community, how do we sort of have those safety nets and levers in place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we stand behind, as a company, our product, and for instance, we receive parking violations, we receive moving violations every day, and we pay them.
Okay.
So there is a mechanism for us to, now it varies state by state, but there's a mechanism for us to be able to do that. When I was speaking about driver's license, I'm thinking more of the passenger in the back seat. I don't want to give the idea that there isn't accountability on that software.
Okay.
So we're completely fully insured and stand behind our product and our tech 100%.
All right, very good. And again, I love the technology. It's exciting. I know I get down in the weeds and I tend to bring up some serious discussion points, but I think the technology is great. Again, I'd like to hear more development about that trolley issue. I think as you grow bigger and you scale, that's going to come to the forefront of public discussion. So I think that's something we're going to have to tackle going forward. But great presentation. Thank you for the information.
Noted, Chairman. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioners, for the time today. And then also thank you to Melissa and her team, all the planning behind the Planning Commission.
We have one more question for you, Commissioner.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. That brought up the question, that short discussion about what if you have it's not your fault, but somebody bumps into you who's driving along. Does the Waymo exchange a receipt with the registration information so they do a exchange of information at that point?
Yeah.
Fender benders and things like that?
Commissioner, that's a great question. So throughout the process of a Waymo ride, if you're a passenger, there's a button easily accessible from the front or back seat to press where a human being will come online and ask, what can I do to help? So in the event of a fender bender, like you mentioned, that's when a human being would actually come, a Waymo employee would come and intervene and then speak to law enforcement officers or just take care of the situation with a human intervention at that point in time.
All right. Are there any other questions, thoughts, comments, praise, ideas? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the great presentation, sir.
Sir, thank you,
All
Chairman.
right. And we will move on to our next discussion, our next presentation, which is 4B, Sulphur Springs Neighborhood Action Plan. And the presenter is Lauren Vasquez, Senior Planning Coordinator, City of Tampa.
All right. Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Lauren Vasquez. I'm a Senior Planning Coordinator with the City Planning Department at the City of Tampa. And today I'm going to present on the Sulphur Springs Neighborhood Action Plan that we completed earlier this year. So some background behind the neighborhood plan. The goal of the plan was to create a long-range vision for the Sulphur Springs neighborhood with really clear and implementable actions as part of that long-range vision. We wanted to aim to improve the quality of life in the neighborhood, which meant improving not only what can we do from a planning perspective, but infrastructure perspective, services perspective, and so the plan touches on all of these things. And then I did also want to highlight that the plan was recently selected for a Neighborhood Planning Award of Merit by the Florida chapter of the American Planning Association. So we kicked off this planning effort in December 2024, and it was completed over the course of 3 phases. The first phase was really the data collection. Second phase was kind of going out into the community, going over the themes that we were beginning to formulate our recommendations. And then phase 3, which concluded in February of this year, was really all about validating what we had heard, gut checking with the community, and moving forward with a plan that we felt was very grounded and reflective of the community. So, of course, I mentioned the community probably 5 times just on that last slide. The community was really at the heart of what we were doing with this plan. We had a really fantastic community engagement consultant that was literally doing field outreach, door-to-door outreach. I had to talk her back from knocking on every single door in Sulphur Springs. So we had the chance to really speak with such a wide range of people in the neighborhood. So what we heard as for the plan is reflective not only of, traditional neighborhood association, but also the people who were in line at the food bank. So from all that community engagement, we created this vision statement for Sulphur Springs, which is, Sulphur Springs is a resilient, welcoming community where history and progress create a vibrant, sustainable future, serving as a model of community-driven revitalization. And we also created these principles. So the plan really envisioned Sulphur Springs as a safe and connected community with community-driven change, preserving the history of the community, preserving the environmental assets of the community, and creating economic opportunities. The report itself is organized into 4 sections: that existing conditions, the visions, themes, and community engagement. And then the bulk of the report is the playbook action areas. So these are the 10 topic areas of from what we heard in community engagement that we wanted to create those actionable steps of how to address the quality of life and improving the neighborhood around these action areas. And then in addition to that, like we said, we wanted this to be a community-driven plan. So we created not just a playbook for city and other public officials, but also community-led action so that the neighborhood can easily take this plan and themselves work on implementing this long-range vision for the neighborhood. So here is kind of a generalized neighborhood plan. There is a lot of redevelopment opportunity in the neighborhood, specifically around kind of in between the Florida Avenue and Nebraska Avenue corridors. And then there to the east of the Nebraska Avenue corridor is really that main residential neighborhood. And so we're looking for opportunities for neighborhood services, for ways to increase affordable housing, through supply as well as preservation, and also making the best use of that historic core of the neighborhood right at Nebraska and the river, and of course the river itself. So I'll quickly go through the playbook action areas. If you all have any questions, I am happy to go back and provide a little bit more context around each of these areas. But the first one is the advisory council, which is really just speaking on that community-driven change, having that group that is working towards that. Partnerships refers to how the city can increase its own capacity in being able to implement the plan. Affordable housing, of course, increasing and preserving affordable ownership and rental opportunities. Targeting the redevelopment sites that are throughout the neighborhood, increasing access to fresh food, safety and connectivity, so not only making sure that our roads are safe, but creating new opportunities to reach all the different areas of the neighborhood, working on that economic and workforce development to create economic opportunity, highlighting park and river access. There are, I think, six parks in the Sulphur Springs neighborhood, 4 of which are on the river. So that was a big thing that we heard as part of the plan. Generally enhancing the neighborhood character and enhancing safety in the neighborhood as well. Each of the playbook action areas is also supported by a case study and accompanying visualizations. We did this so that the recommendations felt very grounded and achievable, and again would serve as that playbook, as a guide for the plan as we move forward with implementation. So on this slide, of course, the comprehensive plan touches on, has a variety of sections. There's the housing section, there's One Water, there's the environmental section. And so this plan really does touch on a lot of those topic areas. But since land use is such a prevalent and powerful tool that we have for affecting the way our communities feel, that's what I wanted to highlight on this slide here with you all. So here I've just highlighted some of the specific actions that are recommended in the plan. So for the advisory council, we want to empower the residents to be able to be aware of and review development that is happening in their neighborhood as that comes forth. Tampa Heights has a similar process, and so that was the case study for this playbook action. The city is exploring generally creating community land trust. We think that Sulphur Springs would be a good neighborhood to start that in. Targeting redevelopment sites, thinking about what land use policies that we want to implement to incentivize redevelopment of those areas. Enhancing neighborhood character. Here, these 2 actions really just highlight how re-incentivizing green development. And then this is more the city side of things, but pre-approved plans, a housing pattern book is very much something that we at City Planning are encouraging the city to look into, especially with the passage of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which has some resources for these. But probably most importantly, I wanted to highlight the access to fresh food action. On the slide, you'll see a picture of some pop-up stands that were done next to the Sulphur Springs K-8 school. This is actually next to a convenience store that they have in that neighborhood. The Sulphur Springs neighborhood is a low-income, low-access, USDA designated low-income, low-access neighborhood, meaning that there are not a lot of fresh food options within the neighborhood. That convenience store that is there is actually a non-conforming convenience store. So as a result, you have to have these kind of nonprofits step in, community-driven, efforts to step in and increase access to fresh food. So as the policies currently exist, and I'll go to the next slide to kind of demonstrate this. This is a future land use map of the Sulphur Springs neighborhood. As you can see, it is primarily residential 10. The policies of the comprehensive plan have neighborhood commercial locational criteria, commercial locational criteria. Sorry about that. There is only one collector that runs through the Sulphur Springs neighborhood, and that is Waters. In order to have commercial uses in R10, you have to be at the corner of two. So right now, the only places where commercial can really locate is along Nebraska or along Florida. And because those are zoned commercial intensive, really we see those parcels go to commercial intensive uses like car lots or mechanics. And so as part of this plan, we hope to take a next step in the future, and I've spoken with Planning Commission staff about this, and they're supportive as the opportunity arises to look at how can we, in an area like Sulphur Springs, think about being more flexible or more thoughtful with the way that our land use policies are affecting access to neighborhood commercial services. So we have been working hard on implementing the plan since its completion in February. We were given $150,000 from Tampa City Council to work on small business development. The Sulphur Springs Stewards is that community action group that has formed as part of this, and also working on community cleanup events. And we are continuing to work with a technical working group. We worked with other city departments all throughout the planning process. We are continuing to meet with those city departments to identify opportunities for how we can move forward recommendations in the plan. And then city planning is also working in conjunction with HART, the Planning Commission, and the TPO on a transit-oriented development phase 2 project, which is focused around the Florida and Nebraska corridors from the river up to Fowler in this area. So we do expect to take some of that initial look about how can we encourage more neighborhood serving uses along the corridors as part of that plan, as well as just general transit-oriented development recommendations. And that is the end of my presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any comments, questions? Yes, Commissioner Sink.
Couple things. Thank you for the presentation, and I'm happy that you mentioned that Tampa Heights was a part of a case study on it. I was able to be one of the authors of the Tampa Heights Overlay District, which the vision of that was that the community was ready for density, was looking for missing middle product, and the developers and homeowners are constantly thwarted by our R10. So nowhere in an R10 area can you even do a duplex, single-family attached product, and specifically even like the ADUs are going to be a problem in that area. So our experience in Tampa Heights has been that without a change to R20 or reimagining that R10 to something that allows missing middle, everything that we do is going to be void because nobody wants to come in and buy these lots, come through the whole process to do comp plan with having, possibly shut down. And so I think a really big component to look at this is how do you really get missing middle? Because oddly enough, the most expensive real estate in Tampa Heights down by Armature Works is the only area you can really get that R20, and all the internal neighborhoods are dying to get duplexes, but they can't do it because of our current policies. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit of feedback on something that we have looked at for years, and it's always been a frustrating aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Sulphur Springs is kind of unique in that, so I mentioned the convenience store that's non-conforming. There are also many non-conforming missing middle properties throughout the Sulphur Springs neighborhood that have actually become quite deteriorated over the years because of some of the difficulties that there are with fixing up non-conforming properties. So the neighborhood actually has a much less favorable view of duplexes. I do think that missing middle housing is absolutely something that we want to move forward as part of the long-range vision for the neighborhood, just from the affordability and place keeping standpoint for the neighborhood. But more so right now, I think the first issue that we would tackle from anything if we were considering changing future land use would probably be a little bit more focused on the commercial and warm our way up to considering how can we encourage more missing middle in the neighborhood. But that's very well taken. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that really, if I can give a really good example of legal nonconforming that really makes a neighborhood great, is Lee's Grocery in Tampa Heights.
Mm-hmm.
It is a legal nonconforming, but it is the anchor for that neighborhood. And oftentimes, people, landowners, get stuck in this area where they can't do anything. And as a result, we get neglected properties. Something else that I think is really interesting is the land bank, community land trust. We did a similar product, I think the Ybor area did a whole bunch of single-family homes, and I think it was a huge missed opportunity where we were able to give affordable housing to one family, opposed to having our future land use updated to R20 to actually help two families own sides of a duplex. I mean, we're not talking about doing 4s and 6s, right, but a traditional 1930s style looking duplex. And if we're doing a land trust, I don't really like to see that, to be able to help as many people as possible because it's a limited resource, opposed to sticking because it's the easier route to go.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When I see the CRAs do their strategic property acquisition and consider how they're going to build out the site, it always makes my heart hurt a little bit when we go with the not full entitlement of the land, or even considering how can we maximize the benefit. And so if we were to pilot a community land trust in Sulphur Springs, which we also did infill, scattered site infill houses, Housing and Community Development Department did that, you know, being able to maximize that community benefit, I think is very important.
Commissioner Bowden.
Yeah, you mentioned about the advisory council. The advisory council, is it recognized by the city as an actual organization?
So what is outlined in the plan is not like a appointed council that then reports to the city or anything like that. And in fact, the way that it has begun to take shape is almost working backwards a little bit, where the working groups are forming. It's very easy to get people involved if they say, well, you know, I'm not in, you know, not everyone's interested in joining a neighborhood association or joining a committee or a council, but maybe they care about keeping the parks clean. And so that the Sulphur Springs Steward effort is really about that. You encouraging people to be stewards on the issues that they're very passionate about, and then from that, giving them the training of how to be an organizer, how to be a voice for their community. So I think it's really still taking form, and it's flexible. One day it may be a more formalized council, but the plan does not necessarily recommend having it be a city-appointed committee or board.
Okay, and I understand that. But when you were talking about it, you had mentioned something about development and redevelopment. So if it's not a recognized organization, they really have no real authority when the area is being developed. And just to build on that, if they are a community organization, how do they get information about the development? If there's development coming into their areas, how is this group, which is loosely organized, get information about development other than the signs that I put up, prior to, the hearings?
Yeah, so I'll answer your questions working backwards. So the way that the way that we are tackling, how are people getting this information? Right now, we have half of that $150,000 allocated from Tampa City Council is going towards community organizing training. And part of that training is how do you stay in the loop about what's going on at the city, how to know who to contact, and things of that nature. And so that training is being provided to the residents as part of that next step implementation. To answer your next question about they won't have authority, that's true, and that is the case for most neighborhood or all neighborhood organizations, where their authority, their power is built in their collective action and reaching out to city council and showing that collective voice. Because truly, at the end of the day, no one has authority except for Tampa City Council with their final vote. Many of us, myself, all of you in this room, we make recommendations and we give our thoughts on the matter. But as far as land use authority, that would ultimately still lie with Tampa City Council.
And understanding that as well, I guess the final question that I have in regards to that, as this council is being developed, have you identified potential leaders in the community?
So really the leaders are self-identifying. We have our community engagement consultant out in the neighborhood. As part of that $75,000 is also direct resident stipends. Mm-hmm. So certain residents have demonstrated such an interest that they are then onboarded as staff for this project. And they themselves start to do the outreach and start to do the training. And they even, I want to say on the intake form for it, will, indicate, I went on a lead on this, I want to help with this, I just want to stay on the loop on this. So we're really giving people the flexibility, but also as part of this, the Sulphur Springs Stewards the goal is to get everyone to the next level. So if you just want to stay in the loop right now, our goal at the end of this is that you're someone who's interested in helping. If you're just interested in helping, maybe we can get you to be interested in leading. Okay.
Well, even though you're saying self-identified, you have identified, and they have identified themselves, so you do kind of have people to communicate to at this point.
Yes, yeah, we keep a tracker of outreach and what the responses have been, and we make regular follow-up with everyone that has made contact with us.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellent presentation. I think this is a worthy endeavor that the city is going down. A couple of questions in reading up on this prior to the meeting. I see one of the goals is to get responses or target 10,000 residents for feedback in the survey planning. Can you comment on how many have gone out and how many responses have been received to date?
Oh, to date, I don't have, I've not gotten a recent tracker from our consultant, but I comfortably can say that we have probably interacted with between 1,000 to 2,000 unique individuals, and there's 10,000 people in the entire neighborhood. So that is a great goal to try to be able to talk to everyone in the neighborhood. But thus far, I believe we've probably hit around 1,000 to 2,000 and counting.
Great. So some of the things that I saw come back in the survey results, the primary ones were crime and safety, environmental concerns, and grocery options. And I saw in your presentation you spent an extended amount of time on grocery options, but I want to kind of hit that third. Mm-hmm. On the crime and safety, can you go into a little bit more detail in terms of what's being done today, short term, because that seems like an easy fix with lighting, policing, and other items to provide a sense of security for the residents living in that area? That's number one. And then number two, what are some of the things in the long-term plan that you think are going to drive a better security for the residents in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So just in the few months since the plan has wrapped up, One, this is constantly, the goals of the plan and the recommendations of the plan are constantly being shared with leadership, and we continue to have those technical working groups to communicate the goals of the plan. I think the plan recommends there being a police outstation in the neighborhood, and right now with funding and property taxes being what it is, and just where we're at on that, that's not necessarily going to be something that happens in the next year. So one of the first steps that we've taken just in the actions that we've focused on so far, as you can tell, we've really focused on that community-driven aspect of it, because that can continue on regardless of if there's funding. There is a neighborhood watch group that has formed as part of that, and so that is one aspect. And then to your other question about long-term, what are the things that we hope to do as part of the plan? I think that focusing a lot on parks improvements is going to make a big change in the neighborhood, because the way the parks are designed right now, people don't really feel comfortable using them. So there are improvements already funded in River Tower Park and Sulphur Springs Parks that are going to bring those amenities up to par more than where they are at right now. Does that fully answer your question?
It does. I wonder if have we cross-checked the data from crime in that area to see if it comports with what the residents are feeling?
I have not, but I will say, like, even in speaking with Mayor Castor, she talks about the times where she was on the beat as a police officer in this neighborhood, and much of it has been pretty consistent feedback about that public safety. And I think that would definitely be interesting data to look at. And at the same time, at the end of the day, if people aren't feeling safe, even if it's technically safe, we want to kind of take action around that.
Absolutely. So environmental concerns, I could not for the life of me figure out what that meant. So could you explain that a little bit in more detail for those of us on the board who are slow?
No, it's a really broad phrase. Environmental concerns. So that really has to do, a big part of that is litter. And being able to mitigate the littering issues that are in this neighborhood. But there's also a lot of unique environmental assets in the neighborhood. So River Tower Park was actually purchased by the city of Tampa using conservation money. And so how are we ensuring that that park is fulfilling the purpose that it was purchased for? Similarly, Sulphur Springs, there are springs there. There are literal springs there. And how are we making sure that we're being good stewards of that spring? Because we use that spring to enhance the water flows of the Hillsborough River, and that affects the mineral content of the springs. Additionally, there are 2 or 3 more riverfront parks in Sulphur Springs that are really mainly for kind of stormwater assets. Sulphur Springs is in a closed stormwater basin, which basically just means it's a bowl. And so thinking about how can we encourage open space, especially as redevelopment comes through, how can we encourage the open space that we have serving to better serve that purpose, as well as serve the community in a more recreational way. And yeah, I think those were really, and of course, in the river itself, preserving the river as a clean, safe amenity that the neighborhood can access.
Okay, excellent. Can you go into a little bit more detail in terms of grocery and thinking in the consensus that it's a food desert in your surveys? As I look at the map, there's a Walmart Supercenter very nearby, there's a Publix nearby, and there's another one within 10 minutes. The residents are saying it, so I want to give it credence, but just looking at the map, it doesn't necessarily seem that that's the case, number one. And then number two, are you actively thinking we're going to carve out a specific space where one can be developed?
So to answer the first question, this census tract is actually designated by the by USDA as a low-income, low-access tract, which means that within 1 mile by foot, it is low access to fresh food. So you're right that within the neighborhood boundaries, there is a Walmart supermarket. It is in that top left corner of the neighborhood on the other side of 275. There's very low car ownership in the neighborhood and extremely high levels of transportation disconnection. So not only is it hard just to cross Nebraska Avenue, but it is then hard to also cross under 275, and it's hard to walk along Florida Avenue to get to the Walmart. So that's really where the idea comes from, that it is not easy, especially for seniors in the community. They actually do a food bank at the United Way Resource Center, which is in the middle of the neighborhood, and that is not even enough to serve the neighborhood because the seniors can't walk there. So that nonprofit is looking into getting a refrigerated truck to be able to do food deliveries. That was the first part of your question. Can you remind me of the second part?
You answered the whole thing.
Okay, great. It was, are we looking at particular areas? If I had to say, Waters Avenue being a little bit rethought of as a main street that has neighborhood serving uses would be something that we would target. But I think that it is worth having a more robust planning study before we just go start changing things.
Thank you.
All right, I did have a couple myself. It's a great presentation, Ms. Vasquez. I think this is a good first step for Sulphur Springs. When you go back throughout the history of this county, this city of Tampa and Hillsborough County, and you look all the way across the county, inside and outside the city of Tampa, there's two specific areas that stand out as depressed when it comes to development. Sulphur Springs is one of them. I won't mention the other one because staff should know it. If they don't, I'll throw that out there and see if they come back with it. But there's two areas that for the past 40, 50 years, as long as you go back in history and you look at it, they haven't developed anywhere near to the areas even directly around them, and Sulphur Springs is one of them. So I think this is, you know, a good start. I was happy to hear you talk about economic development. Beyond all the planning buzzwords, I get those. Economic development is something that's key for this area that hasn't happened and needs to happen, whether it's grocery stores, whether it's corner stores, whether it's new types of housing. I think that focus is an important focus as you and this goes forward to wherever it goes. Again, all those happy planning terms are great. I know those terms, they warm my heart too, but this community needs investment. It needs development, and it hasn't had it for a long time, and it really needs it immediately. So as you go forward, I hope that focus on economic development becomes a great big focus in this area, and some of the other things get tamped down. Again, not that they're not important, but the economics of the area and making sure that the people who live there, who own property there, get the value of their property and don't just get, you know, blown in the wind is important. My next comment is not really for you, because this is a great start and you did a great job. It's for Miss Sornita. I'm going to go Chair Joseph on you, but she's used to me going Chair Joseph, so it's allowed. I believe I heard her say that the CLC is limiting their ability to locate commercial areas inside the Sulphur Spring neighborhood. Can we not waive that for Sulphur Springs? I remember I was here when we did CLC, when this agency created that whole thing, and there were certain areas that we left out of it. Can we not go back and say, hey, let's just remove that, since it's, again, this area's been depressed for so long, it's been beat up and kicked down. Why are we doing things to make it more difficult for this community to move forward? You know what I mean? Can we just, and I get that it's an oversight. We can't, it's a huge county. We can't see everything, you know what I mean? But can we as a board just direct you to come back and remove that from Sulphur Springs to allow them a little bit of breathing room?
So it's handled a little bit differently in the city of Tampa than in the unincorporated county. And in the in the city of Tampa, it is really by nature of them being in the residential 10 land use category. So yes, we could do a carve out of a specific area potentially, but there may be other paths from a policy standpoint that might work a little bit better than that, as was mentioned, maybe look at the types of roadways that are in that neighborhood, look at whether the land use category is the right land use category on those roadways, and maybe make some map amendments. So that's something we can definitely work with the city on, what is the best approach to tackle the problem.
Okay, you answered my second question, because the next was the land use and map amendments to deal with the land uses. Commissioner Sink brought up, I mean, if it's a ant's nest that's down there, we know it, let's do something about it. You know, again, this community needs it. This isn't like a lot of other places where people are, you know, happy and lucky and we're just adding icing on a cake. This place really needs it. So if it needs to be done, you know, this is something that I'd say, get on it. Let's get on it, you know.
Yeah, so we had, working with the city, a number of attempts at addressing, allowing more missing middle housing, duplexes, triplexes in the R10 land use category as part of the plan update. Because we addressed it from a citywide perspective, we got a lot of pushback from certain areas in the city. And so that did not move forward as part of that effort. But I think as hopefully, fingers crossed, that effort comes to an end, we would be able to work on some maybe more targeted approaches for a neighborhood like this to look at that.
Well, does it have to be tied to that effort? Can it be its own sort of effort?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I don't want to rely on fingers crossed. Again, this isn't like most areas in the city. This is an area that really needs it. Like, and you know, it needs to get done. It just needs to get done.
All I meant to say is that it would be separate from the plan update.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all from me. So, Commissioner Sink.
I just have one follow-up question, and I think that it's a huge, I'd say it's an anchor to the community. Was there a revision of the track, the dog track, and what was their feedback on that parcel and the one south of it that just does nothing for the neighborhood beyond creating problems?
Yeah, we certainly got a lot of feedback on it. So the former dog track and the parcel to the south, which is owned by the same entity, is owned by a private entity. We are taking a look at, through our transit-oriented development phase 2 project, not only like how can we change regulations to sweeten the pot a little bit more. I mean, yes, for the dog track, but there's a lot of very large, underutilized suburban-style parcels in this area that is just not really befitting of an urban city. So, yes, it is viewed as a redevelopment opportunity. We want to make sure that our regulations, particularly the land development code regulations, that exist are helping to move forward regulation as opposed to making it more, or excuse me, redevelopment as opposed to making it more difficult. But as it is privately owned, I know the city has approached the owner. I know they at least approached the owner about rebuilding the pool there, and they were not interested. I think that we've probably approached them from other angles as well, and there just has not been interest thus far.
All right. Oop.
My only big suggestion on this is that there has to be a coordinated, really, really well communicated plan between our job here at the commission and future land use and zoning that lays on top of what we do. Because if it remains as disjointed as it is, there's no incentive for anyone to do land development because it's such a question of if you'll be able to get what you need to be able to make a project actually pencil out or not. So how are you guys coordinating between organizations, I guess is my question.
Yeah, so city planning kind of fits in the niche between the Planning Commission and our zoning department, which is doing the land development code update. So in that, you know, I will say, Ms. Arnita mentioned, you know, the bonuses that were introduced as part of the plan update. They're not going to affect the R10 portions of the neighborhood, but they will have an effect on these parcels that are a more intense density and intensity than R10. So we hope that the introduction of the bonuses through the comp plan update will provide that flexibility to help projects pencil out a little bit more. And then we are also coordinating with the land development code consultant to really just try to make it less of a headache. We have interviewed probably, at least 5 or 6 developers, developers interested in this area, just large developers that, aren't in this area, but who have, good institutional knowledge, landowners in this area, and we've asked them, why not redevelopment? And we've gotten some really good feedback, and so we're hoping to integrate that feedback with the Land Development Code update. I hope that answers your question.
It does. And I will say a couple things. For this board, I think it's really funny that we have conversations about expanding the USA, and we can't redevelop land in our own city that's eligible for it because of the things that we produce, which is having R10 suburban-style housing in a location that is clearly urban. So it's frustrating from a development standpoint. No one can invest knowing that they're going to be able to actually pencil these things out. And large builders, I came from them, so I know the MO for that, are not exactly the best actors for them because they don't understand how to use street grids. They always want to create enclaves that are gated and fenced off, opposed to fixing the streets to make our streets align and do a true urban build. So my take on it is probably smaller local developers or smaller builders, like they're doing between 2 and 15 units a year, might be the better fit for that because it's actually going to pencil for them, opposed to trying to sell large tracts of land like we've been doing in Tampa Heights, where we get interest, but the developer wants to put a fence around the whole thing and not do street alignments. So sometimes the best stewards of the neighborhoods are people who actually live there and want to build, and even small infill spaces can make a big change over 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I don't know off the top of my head how it has formed with the Sulphur Springs stewards, but one of the big pieces of the development part is also kind of beginning to at least provide materials on how you can be your own developer. This area is eligible for ADUs, so even just starting there, we think is important.
All right. Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Then we'll thank you for the information and presentation. And we will move on to our next agenda item, action items. Boo. All right. First, we have 5A, Hillsborough County 4-year 27 through 4-year 31 Capital Improvement Program and Capital Improvement Section Schedule of Projects Update. And the presenter is Erica Larson.
Good afternoon. I am not Erica Larson, but she's presenting virtually today, and I will be going through the slides for you. Thank you. Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission staff.
Good afternoon. This is Erica Larson, Planning Commission staff. This item is the Planning Commission's review of Hillsborough County's Capital Improvement Program, CIP, and Capital Improvements Section, CIS, Schedule of Projects Update. This is an action item. Next slide, the Chapter 97-351 requires that Planning Commission reviews the updated CIPs on an annual basis. Chapter 163 requires that the schedule of projects or the list of projects addressing level of service and adopted in the comprehensive plan be updated on an annual basis. The update would replace the existing CIS schedule in the comprehensive plan with the schedule listed in your packets. County staff identified projects in the CIS that affect the level of service. These items make up the schedule of projects. Chapter 163 also requires the CIS to include Basin Management Action Plan BMAP projects to be updated annually. BMAP is a framework for water quality restoration that includes a comprehensive set of solutions to achieve the pollutant reductions established by a total maximum daily load, TMDL, as defined by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. The update is accomplished by ordinance, which is explicitly permitted under Chapter 163. Additionally, the plans of other agencies are incorporated. Next slide, please. Displayed is a summary of the CIP projects, which are placed into 8 program areas. You can see the largest groups in terms of funding are transportation and water enterprise. The total funding amount for fiscal year 27 through fiscal year 31 is approximately $5 billion for 325 projects. There are 5 main categories included in the CIS schedule: transportation, which includes sidewalks, bridges, and other pedestrian enhancements; solid waste, water enterprise, stormwater, and parks. Next slide, please. 4.5 billion, 89% of CIP projects addressing level of service are CIS schedule of projects, and 525 million, 11% are non-CIS schedule projects. Next slide. The following graphic displays level of service priorities for the CIS schedule of projects. 1.4 billion, 32% are eliminating deficiency. 1.1 billion, 23% are maintaining level of service. 1.9 billion, 43% are future growth projects, and 4.5 million, less than 1%, is eliminating deficiency and future growth. The breakdown of level of service project types identified by the county is consistent with the level of service priorities outlined in CIS policy 1.1.8. Next slide. 159 projects, 1.1 billion, are located within the urban service area, and 25 projects, 1.35 billion, are located outside the urban service area. Several large projects that are intended to serve both urban service area and rural area population are technically located in the rural area, so that's why there's a large financial amount in the rural area. The breakdown of rural and urban service area projects identified by the county is consistent with Blue Objective 1 and One Water Policy 3.1.3. Next slide. 24 CIP projects are located in the CHHA and are consistent with CIS Objective 1.5. These projects serve existing development, renovate or replace existing facilities, and enhance public access to natural areas. Next slide. Planning Commission staff finds the county administrator's recommended fiscal year 27 through fiscal year 31 CIP and CIS schedule consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. Myself, as well as county staff, are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does county staff have a presentation? No, that's it? Okay. All right. We had one person sign up in the public comment for this one. It's Roderick. I don't know if that's county staff or if Roderick's on the line. It's supposed to be virtual.
Roderick is not online.
Okay. That's all we had sign up in the public comment for this one. Yep. So I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussions on this item. Commissioner Lauk.
Just to be clear on who the applicant is, it's not our staff, it's the county?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions, comments, discussion items? Not seeing any. Then I'll close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Is there any motion out there? Commissioner Jemison.
Make a motion to find FY27-FY31 consistent.
All right. Is there a second? Commissioner Kugler? All right. We got a second. We got a motion by Commissioner Jemison. Consistency finding. A second by Commissioner Kugler. Are there any questions from the commissioners before we go ahead and take our first vote here? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Oh, I'm going to send it to a roll call on this one if we could.
Bowden,
Yes.
Jemison,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes.
Lauk,
Nay.
Sieben, Sink,
Yes.
Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your slide work and for the presentation, Eric. Hope you feel better. All right. Next up, we have 5B, bylaws amendment, public comment time limits, and the presenter is Sean College.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean College with your Planning Commission staff. This is a continuation of an item we've had for a few months discussing the idea of changing your bylaws with regard to public comment. Your last meeting, you asked staff to look at the discussion that you all have had, the materials we've presented to you over the months, and come up with some options or an option for you to consider at this meeting. So this is on your action agenda. Within your packet, you'll see some draft bylaws changes that we came up with for you to consider. The first paragraph is where we've made the changes under public participation, or the suggested changes. First clarifies that presenters are asked to sign up prior to the item that they are going to be speaking on. And then where your bylaws now consider 3 minutes per person, the option for you to consider would be from 0 to 10 speakers or 1 to 10 speakers. You would have your typical 3 minutes. If there were 11 to 15 speakers signed up for that item, it would be specified that the speakers would have 2 minutes to speak. And then if you had an item with 15 or more speakers signed up, then those speakers would have 90 seconds to speak each. That's what seemed to be reflective of the data in terms of how many speakers you've had over the years. This is also consistent with what we saw in Orange County. This is what Orange County, Florida has in their rules as well. So that's for your consideration. Also, if we went with this, we would renumber 5.7 items accordingly in your bylaws. And as a bylaw change, this is something that you would bring twice, and you would take final action next month if you wanted to proceed with this, or you can make changes to this. It's at your pleasure. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. We did have one person sign up in the public comment. Oh, wait, no, one person to listen. Oh, one person to speak in person. Cami, Ms. Corbett.
Good afternoon, Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson. I've listened to your comments and understand the dilemma that you're having about trying to balance people's need to speak and then just your time and consideration. One thing I would ask for you to also consider is the applicant's rebuttal time. Right now, your applicant rebuttal time is 3 minutes. So if you've been here for 2 to 3 hours hearing from the public and I have 3 minutes, I might as well not speak because I'm not going to be able, there's no way for me to be able to address that time. I would have no problem allowing an applicant to defer their time in their direct presentation and have it available on rebuttal should they choose to do that way. Oftentimes in a controversial amendment, that's what you'll see is that perhaps we're in agreement with staff. There's not a lot of disagreement going on with what the staff report is and what the applicant's requesting, but we have no idea what the 40 people in the room are going to say and what information we might need to respond to you. And we have no idea which of the arguments might resonate with the commission and which things might need to be addressed. And I ask this particularly in the moment of time that we're in now with the proliferation of AI and AI-assisted opposition testimony, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone is using AI, but what you're getting is people scripting themselves for 3 minutes of talking nonstop, and it may just be a variety of issues, and they're all over the place. And so just a little balance and fairness when allowing an applicant to rebut. I'm not asking for the same amount of time. I'm just asking for consideration of perhaps 5 minutes and or the ability to defer some of our direct time to our rebuttal to focus responding to the concerns of the constituents. And I'm here to answer your questions.
Thank you. All right. And that was all we had signed up in the public comments. So I will turn it over to the commissioners. Commissioner Sink.
Can we ask a question?
Yeah, you can. You're a commissioner. You can.
Yeah, I kind of have a question. I'd be like, so if we have, as we're taking down minutes, is there also a mechanism to do it? So is 5 minutes sufficient versus 3 when you're over 15 people, in your professional opinion?
In my professional opinion, I think if you have well over, I want to moderate it because sometimes it's not necessary. So I don't want to, and this is my struggle with you guys having this in your bylaws. Really, this should be, you should be able to set this based on, consensus of the people at the meeting in terms of how you're going to handle a particular meeting. If it was, say, for example, one of our more recent ones where we had several hours of testimony, probably 10 minutes of rebuttal time would be appropriate in that, but I'm going to take what I can get. So I started my ask small. 5 is the bare minimum. I mean, 3 I can't get, I'm not going to be able to get out much out. Most applicants are not going to just take time for the sake of taking time, but I do think it's fair that when it's a particularly controversial matter and multiple issues have been raised, that you at least provide that opportunity to have the applicant and their team respond. And again, you all will make your decision based on the weight of the evidence, but at least the applicant and the property owner making the application could have some additional process.
Thank you, appreciate it. And for the commissioners, I always think in the back of my mind, like, the applicants have spent time, money, resources, and they deserve to have their voice heard. So on the same time, I think that there has to be some kind of balance between 3 hours of, public testimony and then the applicant being able to make their case based on that too. So I think there's a valid point brought up with, 3 minutes when we have 2 hours of testimony by the public.
I will, just to add on to that, because when Ms. Corbett came up, I thought about it. And this obviously is not written into the bylaws. This is something that's characteristic to me as chairman. Whenever an applicant comes up to rebut, if they need more time than 3 minutes, I'll typically allow it, especially the longer the public's gone on with their presentation. Additionally, besides the rebuttal, we as board members a lot of times will recall the applicant back up to speak on different things that we want to hear more about. So there is that opportunity for applicants. I know that the time limit says 3 minutes, but there's been many an occasion, you yourself, Ms. Corbett, has been like, I need a couple more minutes to speak. And I'm like, okay, well, that's why I said it's germane to me as chair. I'm not going to be here forever, so keep that in mind. But, there are other mechanisms. So I just wanted to just throw that out there. Ms. Ornina.
I just wanted to point out in the bylaws, and it's a different section of the bylaws that addresses individual agenda items. And actually, I was talking to Ms. Corbett about a conforming change that we'll need in that section if you all move forward with this, because it indicates that people should be heard for 3 minutes each in that section. But under that, it says applicant presents rebuttal 3 minutes. The applicant may also reserve time from their 15-minute presentation in C, which is their initial presentation, for the purpose of rebuttal. So that part of this is already permissible in the bylaws, but certainly expanding the time limit is something for you all to consider.
Commissioner Kugler.
Yes, thank you. 2 thoughts. One was, I think right now the final rebuttal, is about 10% of the public's comments. Let's say 3 minutes versus the 30 minutes or so. Could we keep it as a percentage increase? Because I think what Ms. Corbett's pointing out is that when they present so much volume of response, then there has to be a way to address all that. And if you have a large percentage increase in the public comment, then it would seem to me you can keep that 10% adjustable of what it was, of what the public comment was. And the other thought I had was, generally, we kind of have a pretty good idea of what the responses are going to be on certain issues, and it's true, the public generally have issues about the environment, the change, what they don't want to see and change. But if there's something really unique, some new piece of testimony, would it be possible to address it right there, or is that something that's going to need some research in an extra meeting, something like that?
Cami Corbett again. I think we're generally aware of the types of things that come up. So I think that we could, with some extended time in rebuttal, be able to respond at that meeting. We're never going to be if it's 2 or 3 hours of testimony, we're not going to hit every issue, right? We're going to be looking at the big issues that are going to be part of your consideration. And I do appreciate that you clarified that, Melissa. We were looking real quick before, and it was just the 3 minutes, so we can do that. But I still think you're talking about 15 minutes to present your case in chief, and then 3 minutes or even 5 minutes to present rebuttal just seems lopsided.
Commissioner Wharton.
Just a little wordsmith here. 2 minutes for 11 to 15 speakers, and then 90 seconds for 15 speakers or more. So maybe 16 speakers or more, because, yeah, you see that? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sieben.
I appreciate the comment as a percentage. I think logically that makes sense, but in a practical sense, I would think that when you, as I've prepared presentations for this before, it can be difficult to anticipate how to plan your presentation and response if you're going to do it as a percentage of the people who show up. So I can imagine it would make Ms. Corbett's job, you know, exponentially more difficult if we're gonna organize it that way. So I feel like if we can plan it around some metric that can be somewhat anticipated, like below 15, you know, then they get 5 minutes, above 15, then they get 10 minutes, something like that might be able to be a little bit more consistent for planning purposes.
Good points. Tracy, what are your thoughts on all this, adjusting because this is sort of different. So everybody seems appeased with the public's talking points, and now we've moved on to this. Okay, I'm sorry, we'll get back to you.
I haven't heard anything that troubled me in the discussion of the options that have been presented.
Okay. Commissioner Laut.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say this is, trying to think of a way to say this eloquently and without inciting rage at me from my fellow commissioners. I think we're managing to the outlier in this particular case. So if we think back to what the genesis of this whole initiative was, Commissioner Kona came forward after a laborious, to be kind, meeting where we were in full candor. I was glad I was sick that night. I wasn't here, and I know y'all were here till like the witching hour, but I think the data showed us in the last time we spoke about this last month that we're managing to the outlier. We're a public body, and I want to underscore and bold public. We have a fiduciary obligation to hear from the public, and if we take any steps to limit the public's input, as laborious and tedious as it can be sometimes, there goes my political career, not that I ever wanted one, I think we're doing a disservice to the community writ large. I mean, if we just look at the data and say how many times a year, how many times in a 2-year cycle do we have these nights where we're here till 10 or 11? They're not many. I've been a commissioner for 5.5 years. I think you're the only one left that was here before me at this point, and it doesn't come along that often. So I would caution us to make any movements or tie the hands of commissioners that come after us and limiting what the public can do from an input standpoint. With the issue tonight, I think Ms. Corbett brings up a pretty salient point. If you're not the chairman, what do we do in a situation like that? And I do think there's not really equity there. That was part of one of the initial things that was brought up when we began to discuss this. So just food for thought. I think we should be cautious in terms of limiting what the public can do and say.
All right, all good points. Actually, Commissioner Cardenas, it's me, then Commissioner Cardenas, then you. Yeah, it's like 6 years.
He's not here tonight.
No, yeah. Commissioner Kugler.
Yes, I was originally thinking of addressing this question to Sean College, but Commissioner Lau brought up his experience with it over years, far more than I've had here. What would you say in a 12-month cycle, how many times do we have those whale of a nights?
Once, twice a year, something like that. And I've been chair longer than most people have been on this board, except for Commissioner Rodriguez down there.
You've been chair longer than most people have been alive at this point.
But yeah, they don't happen very often. It's not a very often thing, you know.
We don't have 2 whale nights, do we? If we have one of those whales, it's a 1 whale night.
Typically, yeah. Ms. Lornita tries to manage it such that it's that, so we can be efficient and get everything done in our 1 meeting a month. But yeah, usually they get spaced out. We try not to have things get jammed up into where we're back-to-back long meetings or anything like that. And we've done some pretty touchy things in the past. I mean, we had a moratorium on development in South County. We've rewritten the comp plan. You know, we've done some pretty touchy things. The City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, some of you were just here for all that hoopla, which is still going on in many ways. So we've done some pretty, touchy things, and it hasn't really gone. But every once in a blue moon, we'll hit on that one thing that the people just show up for, and we tend to go a little bit long. So Commissioner Lauk's points are very valid. Are there any other thoughts, comments? We're going to need a action on this item, or no action. We could let it die if we want to. I don't know.
Well, it
It's
will
the board's
come
desire.
back to the next meeting for you to take action on the wording that's in
Here,
front of you
okay.
with some minor corrections, as pointed out by Commissioner Wharton and identified for consistency throughout the document. But if you all would like something changed in the bylaws related to the rebuttal time, we could use direction on that.
Okay, Commissioner Siebman.
I'd like to propose a rebuttal modification of 5 minutes if we have between, let's say, 10 and 15 public commenters, and then 10 minutes if over 15 public commenters.
Do we start with 3 or do we start with 5 and then go to 10?
Well, I think it's assumed 3 if under 10.
Okay, gotcha.
5 if between 10 and 15, and then 10 if above 15.
Okay. Commissioner Lau.
I don't know how we would do this to ensure staff has the right direction at this point from a consensus standpoint.
It probably would be helpful to have a motion to give us that direction. If you wanted to make that a motion, then.
Yeah, I would like to understand where the board's head is in terms of limiting public input during the public comment section. Are we still there as a body where we want to do that in conjunction with extending the applicant's time to speak? Or do we want to leave public input as is and then move to extend the applicant's time to speak?
Well, public input's already, that's what Ms. Ornita was just saying. Those changes are already before us, so it's going to come back to us at next meeting for us to vote on.
Right.
those
I
changes.
think the problem therein is those things are bundled together. And some of us may be for extending the applicant's time to speak in conjunction with leaving the public's input time the same. And I may be the only one out on an island on this, but I would just like to understand what's going to come back, because I'm going to vote against it if it limits the public's time to speak, but I would like to see the applicant's time extended, if that makes sense, in a reasonable manner, say 5 minutes.
Can we separate them?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask Mr. Robin.
Making Tracy work tonight.
If it's a separate, if they're separate, then that bylaws amendment.
Has to come again.
Would be for its first meeting next month and then voted on in October related to the rebuttal. Correct? Because the language on the rebuttal is not in front of them,
And it'd be a separate action,
right?
so.
Yes,
It has to
probably
come back,
that'd be the
yeah.
most conservative way to address it.
Come back through the process
I mean,
again,
it really strikes me, listening to the range of the conversation, that maybe that's something the board should consider, leaving the rebuttal issue to the chair's discretion, which does, I think, add something to, I don't have the existing language in front of me, but I think it was limited without that option.
Right, today it just says the applicant may reserve time from their 15 minutes for additional rebuttal, but if they want to use their whole 15 minutes and have additional time in the rebuttal, it doesn't
We still need
contemplate
to change
that.
the 3 to 5 anyway.
Well, at the very least, we need to allow the chairman the ability to expand the rebuttal time if requested.
Well, I have that authority now.
Right.
I could do it on the fly if I want to. I could say she has 30 minutes to speak afterwards in rebuttal if I want to.
You're not there.
Right. Again, I'm not going to be
Right.
chair forever.
So,
So,
Do we need a second here, or do we?
well, we haven't made a motion yet. We're just kind of discussing it yet. I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Siebman when we go to motions, but not just yet, so.
I'm thinking that maybe the best way to approach that then is to bring back,
Another one.
beating it to death, but bring back maybe another option or two, and let the board be thinking about this and decide next month which one they want to go forward with or how they want to change it. Just a suggestion.
So the public comment time is going to come back before us, and then we're going to start a new one that's, if Commissioner Siebman's motion gets seconded and passes here. Okay. So we are going to separate them out. It's going to be the public time come first, and then it'll be the rebuttal applicant time. So everybody Everybody good here? Does anybody have any more thoughts or comments on this? Any questions from the commissioners? I'll turn it over to Commissioner Sieben for a motion, possibly.
I'd like to make a motion that during public hearings, if there are, I say, less than 10 public commenters in opposition, rebuttal time for the applicant should be limited to 3 minutes. If they're between 10 to 15 public commenters in opposition, then it will be limited to 5 minutes. And then if there are more than 15 persons present in opposition, it will be limited to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And can I just ask a clarifying question? Would you still leave in the language about reserving time from their early presentation for additional
I
rebuttal
think,
time?
no, I think we removed that.
Okay. And just a note to everyone, this is going to go through the process again, so it'll come before us. We can talk about it. Melissa's going to take this back. Staff's going to present this to us now. So if you change your mind after this and you want to, you know, massage things, we have those opportunities coming before us. We'll see it a couple more times. So this is just the start of that process to bring it back. Is there a second out there anywhere?
Yes.
All right. We have a second to that motion for Ms. Zornita and staff to bring this back to us by Commissioner Kugler. Motion was made by Commissioner Sieben. We're going to have to take a vote on this one, so I think I'm going to, are there any questions, comments from the commissioners before we take our vote? I think I'm going to kick it over to the clerk for a vote on this one, on bringing back, extending the applicant time as per Commissioner Sieben's directions.
Bowden,
Yes.
Jemison,
Yes.
Kugler,
Yes. Yes.
Lauk,
Yes.
Sieben, Sink,
Yes.
Joseph.
Yes.
The motion carried 7-0.
All right. Okay. And you don't need a motion for us on the original one because you said it's coming back anyway?
Not unless you all want to modify what is in front of you.
Okay. I didn't think anyone had spoken up on any of that. Did anybody have any thoughts, comments on any of that? I know Commissioner Lauk did, but. All right, not seeing any, then we'll look forward to that coming back to us at our next meeting. And we will move on to our next agenda item. What do we have here? Our Executive Director's Report, item 6A, Status Report, and 6B, Other Items, and the presenter is Melissa Zornita.
Good afternoon, Melissa Zornita, Executive Director. And at your seats, you have my report on activities in the last month. A couple of things that I wanted to focus on. I had a meeting just last week with the State Department of Commerce on the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and I think we finally have some forward motion on that. They have agreed with our justification on a number of the policies. There are a couple that they still did not agree with us on, but have opened the door for us modifying those policies and moving it to adoption. So essentially what we're proposing to them is going back to the way the policies are adopted today on those two issues, and because that is definitely not more restrictive or burdensome than the plan is today. So that we've shown them that language. We're hoping to hear back that is a fine path for us to take and move to adoption. We're looking at an adoption hearing in October. That still needs to be set by Tampa City Council. And then that would have a second reading on adoption in November. So that's what we're working towards right now. So happy to report on some progress there. We've had some successful meetings on the urban expansion area study in the Little Manatee South area, and have the next round 3 of outreach coming up at the end of August and beginning of September in the I-4 corridor. We also have, I wanted to point out to you and remind you all that we have the joint meeting with Temple Terrace City Council on August 17th from 4 to 5:30 at the Lightfoot Recreation Center in Temple Terrace. So we've been having a number of meetings preparing for that, and most recently met with Mayor Ross and the city manager to discuss how the flow of that meeting. I also wanted to provide an update on the urban service area discussion facilitation. We are in the process of finalizing interviews for those consultants, and we expect to, in the next week or so, have concluded that process and be able to have somebody under contract on that project. So far, all of the consultants we've talked to have talked about having one-on-one interviews with each of you all before there being a workshop so that they understand the perspectives of all of the members. So we anticipate that that will happen starting before the next meeting in September. So I wanted you to be on the lookout for that. We will send some sort of introductory email when we start setting it up. Probably Lauren will be helping us with the scheduling on that with each of your calendars. But we will be kicking that off soon, and so you should expect some outreach on that process shortly. I did include some plan amendment updates. We had a number that were heard by the city of Tampa. And actually, one of them that was heard, maybe that was before the last meeting. The one that probably you all are most interested in was the site for the HCC site, and that did not move forward at Tampa City Council. They decided not to transmit that to the state. And then there were a number from the county. They adopted the corridor preservation plan amendment and an amendment at 579 just north of I-4 to expand the urban service area. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Sink.
You said there's two items that need to be reconciled with the state for the City of Tampa comp plan. What are they?
Oh, sure. Well, and I should say it was only two within the future land use section. They are still reviewing with DEP some items from the coastal management element, but we believe we have clear explanations for why they are the way that they are. But in the future land use section, it was a policy regarding Fowler Avenue and promoting walkable, safe, connected design along that corridor. There's an existing policy in the comprehensive plan that does that. It just is not specific about Fowler Avenue. So we'll revert back to that with the clarification that it's focused on Fowler. The other amendment or policy was related to parking garage design on private property, and there's a policy today about design in the downtown area and a policy about design elsewhere in the city. We combined those two policies and said you could do either or. They viewed that as more regulatory, so we will go back to how it's written.
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
These individual meetings, it's for the USA discussion facilitation?
Yes.
Did we pick a facilitator yet? Or?
We're in the process of completing the interviews, but we anticipate to have that done in the next week and that they'll get right underway.
I thought we were going to get some input on the facilitators or at least hear some information on who they were. I thought when we sent you forward with this, I specifically spoke about getting some information on who the facilitators were going to be before the final decision was made.
I don't recall that at the meeting. We presented that it would be an under $50,000 contract.
Right, and Commissioner Locke, I don't believe, was at that meeting. I distinctly remember saying I want to make sure that we as a board have input on who that facilitator might be. I could be mistaken. I'll go back and look, but that's fine.
Okay.
We'll let that one slide. My second question is, why individual meetings? This process has been dragged out for quite a long time now. I brought this up last year in December. We sit here right now in August. This doesn't look like we're going to get anywhere near sitting down and talking about this till sometime late next year. It feels like this process is being slow-rolled. As the one who brought this up,
Sure.
I've been here a long time. We've been working together a long time, Ms. Thornita. I am not happy about the time this has taken and the way it's being planned out and the way that it's moved. At every step, it feels like it's been slow-walked, it's been avoided. I had to write a letter to the Board of County Commissioners to get things moved forward, and it feels like at every step of the process, this agency is not giving the credence to this thing that it needs to give. So I don't understand why we have to meet individual meetings with every single board member before we get to sit as a group. And we've been talking about this as a group for quite a long time now. We've been going back and forth. Everybody has their ideas. It seems like a weird way to go forward to me.
So I apologize if it feels like it's being slow-rolled, because that's not what we're doing. The summer has been a challenging time to get all of the interviews scheduled with different vacations, both on our side and on the consultant team's sides. But our goal is to have workshop 1 in October and workshop 2 right after that, so that we exit the end of the year with a scope to move forward with on how to evaluate the urban service area. We gave in this draft scope that we've shared with the consultants, we gave them an option of how they wanted to get input as some of the pre-work before coming into the workshop. I'm just telling you, the feedback we've gotten so far has been that they have watched the prior meetings and have said, we'd like to make sure everybody's voice is included in this, and we wanted to talk with each one individually. So they got to know us before we go into this big workshop, and we got to know them. It's not intended to be a long interview or process, but a short meeting with each person.
I realize it's not intended to be, but scheduling, I mean, we can barely get together a full meeting of us being here. Again, we've worked together for many years. When it comes to scheduling each of us time to do things, to go the route of having to speak with each one of us takes, I remember when we did that for a retreat one year, we had that one facilitator come in and they had to set up meetings with each of us, and that was a pretty lengthy process just because of what it is. I'm not saying that's slow rolling. I'm saying choosing that path is seems like the least efficient path to me, where, I sort of know that, yes, you might be aiming for October, but by the time we get everybody's times and meetings scheduled, it might get pushed back to who knows when, So that's the only thing that I'm
I think that's a fair concern, and certainly if it looked like taking that path would not allow us to meet an October workshop, then we would tell the consultant they need to take a different path. So that's something we'll have some discussion with the selected consultant about.
Okay, and I'd like for you to go ahead and send me the scoping information. I'd like to take a look at that, and I'd like to see who is in the queue for potentially taking on this work and being the facilitator. I'd like to have some knowledge of what's going on there. I don't know if anyone else would, but feel free to ask Ms. Ornita. She's always willing to, help us out and give us information when we need it. So if anyone else would like to have look at that information, feel free to request it. So that's all for me. Okay. Commissioner Bowden.
Yeah, in regards to the individual interviews, my thought is in this, going back to the consultants or who you're looking at, that if that's the path they would like to take, can we set a deadline that if you have not had conversations with everyone, this October date is the date?
Yeah.
If you haven't, then we move forward.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's no, ambiguity or anything like that. So we can't say we're moving the date because you did not because of planning.
Sure, we absolutely could do that. There also are other approaches. I've seen other teams do surveys and things like that to get information from the commissioners. I think the feedback was that they wanted to.
Commissioner Kugler.
I think when they're interviewing us, we'll interview them back.
Right. Oh, I'm sure.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? I did also want to give a shout out to Commissioner Bowden. He came down with us to the Flip Junior program, which was
Much for
this year. You want and getting things done for us, and I want to tell you I appreciate it because it was not easy to put that together. There was a lot of shifting and moving of pieces this year to get that done, but Ms. Ornita always does an excellent job at, doing what she has to do to adjust and move with things. So thank you very much for that, as always. Are there any other comments, questions for our executive director? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information, and we will move on to our next agenda items. Other business, chair's business, I have none. Old business, do we have any old business? Was there some old business? No, I don't think so. All right, no old business. Anybody have any new business? Not seeing any new business going once, going twice. Committee reports. Does anybody have any committee reports? Commissioner Sank.
For the first time since I've been on the CAC for the TPO and since 2023, someone showed up and spoke at the meeting last week, and it was regarding, and I think it's kind of telling that the public does not understand the expansion for the USA and what it means. So we have people showing up and they're talking about the new interchange on 270 or on 75, but that's not exactly the scope of what that is. So it's interesting to hear kind of the confusion of what it is, and then going in front of the CAC who doesn't understand it and getting their opinion. You're like, I was honestly scared for us because a lot of people didn't understand, and we had a very vocal group. I think there's like probably 6 or 8 people who showed up from, is it Skydance or Sundance down in Little Manatee, and they're ready to give it to the CAC members, but it wasn't the venue for that to happen. So it was just a very, very interesting meeting last week, and I just thought it's funny. Of all times, this is the only time in 3 years I've ever seen somebody show up and nobody knew what they're talking about. Like, it's very chaotic.
Interesting. All right. Any other committee reports? We didn't have a TPO meeting. We were off in July, so I have nothing to speak on. We do have a meeting this week on Wednesday, so at our next month's meeting, I'll probably bring you back a report of that one. So not seeing any committee reports, then we are done with this meeting. Our next one starts at 5:30, so we'll keep it there because we could always start a little bit later. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Commissioner Jemison, who cut his vacation short to be here with us tonight. Honorable man, all right, showing up for us when we need him. Thank you, sir. taking one for the team. We're proud of you. And that's it. This regular meeting is adjourned. We'll see everyone at 5:30.